So recently, Tristan Tate, brother of Andrew Tate, debated a high-profile vegan named Joey Carbstrong. And I'm going to break down Tristan's arguments and tell you why I don't think they hold water.
I myself am an Orthodox Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe in the word of the Bible. And the Bible makes it very, very clear that man has dominion over animals. It tells us which animals we can and which animals we can't eat. And I don't understand how any man could argue with a Christian about that. If I say God's word is final, where would you come in and oppose me?
So first, just on the face of it, because my God said so isn't a very good argument, and you probably already agree with this. Let's say you're pro-choice and you're arguing against someone who's pro-life, and they say abortions are wrong because it says so in my holy book. You're not going to accept that as a good reason. And likewise, if you're pro-life and you're arguing with someone who's pro-choice, and they say abortions are fine because it says so in their holy book, you're also not going to accept that as a good reason either. This is why if you watch most debates on abortion, people are talking about things like sentience, human life, fetal development, trade-off in rights between the mother and the baby, etc., and not their holy books. Not to mention, if Tristan wants to make that case, he's gonna then have to present evidence that the Christian God exists. And I don't just mean that some super powerful being exists or that, like the whole universe is God, man. He has to show that the specific God in the Bible is real, and that's a tall order. But let's say you do find all that convincing. The Bible still doesn't say you can't be vegan, or that it's a sin to be vegan. So then my question would be, why choose to pay people to confine, mutilate, and kill animals when you don't have to? Why put pigs in gas chambers? Why castrate them without painkillers? Why grind baby chicks alive at 1 day old when you don't have to? But let's be real for a minute. Are we all just gonna act like Tristan is following every recommendation in the Bible? Does he take everything in the Bible literally? Like the parts about slavery and killing kids because they made fun of you for being bald? Is he a biblical literalist? No? Well, then I think we all know this isn't the real reason. So let's get serious and move on.
It's a pig. It was raised for a reason. And also my position is this on pigs and cows and, dogs, on all of these things. There's not a single farm animal, there's not a single farm animal which exists exactly as it is on the farm out in nature. All of these things were produced by humans. Pigs in nature, I've seen them. They're short and fucking muscly and brown and hairy, and they've got tusks, and they're fast and they're dangerous. The big fat lazy pink pigs exist because we bred them to be that way. Every single form of cattle, every single form is descendant of the European oryx, which has been extinct for over 400 something years. Humans have created these animals through selective breeding. In fact, if you wanted to make an argument not to eat dogs, I'd understand it a bit more than cows and pigs, because dogs were selectively bred by people, but not for food. Dogs were selectively bred by people to be hunters and to be retrievers. That's why they still have these names today.
So it seems like the principle he's expressing is that because someone or something is created for a purpose, it's necessarily good to use them for that purpose. Or at least that it's not bad to use them for that purpose. But this is pretty straightforwardly wrong. Imagine if I went into my backyard, grabbed a stick, sharpened it, and then stabbed my girlfriend. Then when people got mad at me and tried to throw me in jail, I said, whoa, hold on a second, guys. I sharpened that stick for that specific purpose. I sharpened it to stab her. Or if you want an example that's more analogous, but also a little spicier, throughout history, people have literally bred humans to be slaves. Does that mean it's okay or good, or at least not bad, to use people as slaves because they were bred for that purpose? Obviously not. Just because an object or an individual was created for a purpose, doesn't mean it's ethical to use it or them for that purpose.
But that is not the same as people who run dog meat farms raising dogs for meat, because I understand what they're raising those dogs for, and they're perfectly entitled to do that. I can try to reduce cruelty, but I think cruelty is completely justified, when it comes to getting fed.
So you're making the point, you're saying that
if it's
cruelty
food,
is justified if you're going to... Now you're saying cruelty can be justified if you're going to eat the animal, is what your position is, yeah?
Yeah.
So at first he seems to say as long as you're eating them, it doesn't matter what happens to them. But this seems patently insane, because it would mean that I could put any animal through the worst sort of torture imaginable, then kill them as long as I ate them afterwards. Also, the pain a pig or dog would feel when they're being castrated while fully conscious isn't going to somehow retroactively get better because you eat them after they die. Imagine I waterboard a dog, kill them, then leave them on the ground to rot. By Tristan's lights, something bad has happened here. But now imagine the next day I realize I forgot to buy groceries, so I say f it and eat the dog. Now something bad hasn't happened? Was it bad the whole time? Was it bad only in the interim before I later ate the dog? What if afterwards I threw up by accident? What if I threw up on purpose? The point is, this is all irrelevant. The dog or pig endured the same amount of suffering before I robbed them of their one and only life. What I do with them after is no comfort at all. Now the problem is he later contradicts himself when he reveals that he also buys alligator shoes.
You can't care about animals being tortured while you're paying for their torture. I
buy a lot of alligator skin shoes. I know how cruel those alligator farms are.
Yeah, and that's nothing to do with food.
And I like alligators. They're cool.
Wait a second, brother.
Yeah.
Brother, that is a very good point, actually, because you wear cows as well.
Yeah,
which has nothing to do with eating.
I do wear cows. Well, it's a human utility. So, everyone needs leather.
Yeah, but it's interesting. But yeah, well, no, we don't need leather. Obviously, there are other ways of there are other fabrics.
Oh, they're synthetics. They're synthetic fabrics today, but they haven't existed for very long, and you know that.
Yeah, but they exist now. But my question to you is because at this, I'm not trying to do a gotcha or anything, but this is actually just a bit different.
Because I said food. Because if you're going to eat them,
you said it's fine to be cruel as you basically want, so long as you're getting food from these animals, right? And people, I'm not misinterpreting what we said. So the shoes made out of, say, cow's skin
or alligator leather.
That's not food. That's their skin. So yeah.
Well, I mean, we're using the end product. We raised the cow to be an end product. So I did say food, but this isn't a gotcha moment.
You sure about that? You sure about that? That's why? You sure about that?
Because if you want to kill, because the cows that are killed for leather aren't eaten. Everyone knows that. It's too expensive to raise them. It's too expensive to raise the cows with the high quality hides. You have to have them at certain elevations to make the car seats in, for example, a Bugatti or a Rolls Royce. And they don't eat the meat because it's not financially viable to cart them off and then chop them up because it's too cheap. I mean, they usually don't eat the meat. Let's say the cows are completely discarded. Yeah, fine. You raise the cow for leather.
So it's fine to kill
for leather, yes.
Like cows for their skin.
100%.
And in India, where they trek them across like long treks and they're suffering, and then they export that leather. It's fine to buy that leather. Just animals suffering like really horrible lives just for leather. Yeah.
Yes.
And when calves are skinned and like little calves are skinned for their calf skin, that's fine too. Baby cows just to wear them.
Yes.
Even though there's like other options available, that's all cool.
I mean, there are other options available, but I don't think you have a pair of shoes as cool as my alligator skin shoes. I think my shoes are better than your shoes.
And so his position shifts to it's okay to kill them as long as there's some purpose, like clothing. And note, the purpose doesn't have to be a necessity. He says he just likes the shoes, not that he needs them. But he also says we shouldn't just torture an animal for no reason. So if we can do whatever we want to an animal, so long as it serves some purpose or there's a reason, that basically just means we can do whatever we want to animals. For instance, I can torture animals because I like the sounds of their screams. That's my reason. And it serves the purpose to give me sensory pleasure, in the same way a burger serves the purpose of giving someone sensory pleasure. Now, to be more charitable, it seems like maybe he's saying it's okay as long as there's some physical good or a product that we make from them. But this would mean I could kill a dog solely because I wanted to stick their head on a pike and display it outside my living room. And if you think the conclusions of these hypotheticals are ridiculous, they are, because the principles from which they're derived are ridiculous. Saying it's okay to do anything you want to a sentient being as long as you eat them or make a product out of them is a bad principle, even if it seems reasonable on the surface. What you do to an animal's dead body after you've tortured and killed them is of little to no consequence. From the victim's perspective, they still suffered and died. It honestly is just as simple as the golden rule. Treat other sentient beings as you'd want to be treated if you were in their position. If you were in the position of a pig, would you want to be raised in the confines of an industrial farm and put in a gas chamber? Probably not. And let me take a moment to address a piece of confusion I often see when we talk about principles and hypotheticals. So I got this comment on a previous video I did about Tristan, where I said something to the effect of, if Tristan is cool with the rule eat anything you want, it means he would be cool with eating babies. To which I got this comment, eat anything you want equals okay with eating babies? It is a completely asinine statement. To twist somebody's words to this degree shows a lack of empathy for the people who oppose your worldview, and you only want to make them out as a villain. So this is a total misunderstanding of why we test principles like this. I don't think Tristan is cool with eating babies, but the principle it's okay to eat anything you want implies it's okay to eat babies, and thus it's a bad principle. The power of me pointing this out rests precisely on the fact that most people, including Tristan, don't think it's okay to eat babies. And so, if you're someone who's defending eating animals, you need to employ some other reason or principle.
I think it's a wonderful thing, yes. And you'll never change my mind otherwise. Factory farms are fine by me. And I know what goes on, and I've seen them, and I don't care. It's a chicken. It's a chicken, bro. Like, seriously, I just don't care.
So this really is an F-tier argument. And if you don't think it's bad, just ask yourself if you'd accept this argument in other scenarios. Let's say it's the early 1900s in the United States, and there's a person who's actively voting for politicians that want to continue to deny women the right to vote. And you come along and say, hey, I want to debate you on this. And they say, sure, I'll debate you. And you say, well, what's your argument? And they say, well, because I just don't care. And not even for a generically terrible reason like women are too emotional or it's the natural order of things. They just say, look, I don't care. That's my argument. There's no way anyone would or should accept that. And in this case, Tristan doesn't just hold the position that it's okay to put pigs in gas chambers and castrate them without painkillers. He's actively funding it with his dollars. He's not in some abstracted neutral position. I just don't care isn't a valid argument. And if it is, I could just say, I don't care that you don't care. And then we could go into an infinite regress, circle jerking each other into infinity about how little we care.
We're not hypotheticals because we live in the real world, don't we? I've given lots of hypotheticals, but I don't like to go down the hypothetical route. You can't hit us with any weird hypotheticals about non-human humans because that's just not real.
All right, as someone who's had and watched a ton of debates on many different topics, 99% of the time when someone says, well, that's just a hypothetical, I don't deal in hypotheticals, I'm just concerned about the real world, they're full of shit and they're losing the debate. Everyone deals in hypotheticals like all the time. When you have shower debates, you're engaging in a hypothetical. When you practice asking out your crush in the mirror and then imagine how they'll react, you're engaging in a hypothetical. When you're trying to decide if you should quit your job and you imagine what it would be like working somewhere else, you're engaging in a hypothetical. When you play Would You Rather, you're engaging in a hypothetical. Not to mention, hypotheticals are just like well-recognized tools in debates and just like the field of philosophy in general. They are just so not an invalid move to use in a conversation. But they can be really emotionally destabilizing because most people don't do the hard work of truly challenging their ideas with these tough hypotheticals. And if you want to deep dive on hypotheticals, I did a whole live stream on them, which is linked in the description. And I think it's pretty enlightening, but I might be biased.
I don't make that difference at all. I can't make that distinction. And I certainly don't put animal lives and human lives on the exact same plane of importance at all. Like a lot of, do you think that pigs and cows are as important as people? Do you feel their lives are worth as much as a person's life? But no, I don't think any argument can be made that animal lives are as important as human lives. And if you really truly believe that, if you really truly in your heart believe that an animal life is as important as a human life, then I believe that there is something, and I don't mean this in an offensive way. Let's talk about someone else. Let's talk about a third party. This guy believes that animal lives and human lives, because it's sentient, are all exactly of equal value. Then that person is less intelligent than a piranha. Cows and chickens are beneath me and they're beneath humans, and I don't care. I don't care about cows and chickens in the same way that I care about humans, and I never will.
Okay, so real quickly, no one thinks humans and animals are exactly the same. Some vegans value them the same, and some don't. You don't need to assign humans and animals the same value in order to think it's wrong to kill them for a burger. You just need to think the life and abject suffering of these animals is more consequential than 10 minutes of taste pleasure you could get somewhere else. All right, so the problem with critiquing Tristan in this debate is that he really was all over the place, which is understandable because it's a difficult topic and most people don't press you on it. But ultimately, I do think he at least cares about the suffering of animals, since he says this.
You eat KFC for pleasure, don't you?
I do.
You choose KFC for pleasure.
Absolutely. So if I could,
how is eating KFC for pleasure different to what I'm doing for pleasure? Say I got pleasure out of torturing these animals. It gave me sensory pleasure. I really liked them squealing or whatever. You really like the taste of KFC, and these animals are suffering in horrible factory farms in order to bring you that KFC. How is what you're doing any different to what I'm doing?
Let me restructure your question. If I could push a button and stop it, and by stopping it, it means you just take a big butcher's knife and cut the chicken's heads off, then I would push that button, because why would I want anything to be tortured? I don't see the point in it.
If he didn't care, what would be the point of having that button? So here's an approximation of what I think his position might really be like. Animal suffering is bad, factory farms are bad, and I'd prefer they didn't suffer, particularly in the grisly ways they suffer on factory farms. But I'm not motivated enough to stop paying for it because for whatever host of reasons, I like eating animals and their secretions. I know ultimately this is bad, but I don't think it makes me a bad person. To which I would just point out that the momentary pleasure one gets from eating an animal's leg when there are plenty of other tasty things to eat doesn't outweigh the suffering that the vast majority of animals endure. I personally would object to their killing even in the case that they had a decent life, but I won't get into all that here. So if you think I misrepresented or didn't understand Tristan's argument, that's fine. But he says a lot of contradictory things in that discussion, and so at times it's hard to actually key in on what his position actually is. But I don't do videos like this to say Tristan is bad. I do them because they afford me an opportunity to pick apart particular arguments and show why they don't hold up. And so if people want to see me do a live stream where I break the whole debate down in more detail, including critiquing the vegan Joey, let me know in the comments and I might set that up. And if you want to help me make this my full-time career, check out the Patreon in the description. And shout out to Ryan O'Neill, Tom Eisenbeiss, NetBase News, Monstar, David Yastrzemski, and Maxwell Edison.